Hello, my name is Lucas. I grew up in a quiet town, and in order to both attend university and financially support my family, one enrolled in college at the age of 21, slightly later than most. I was studying architecture. Whenever I thought about the major change this field would bring into my life, the future I would build, and the plans I had for what lay ahead, I could barely contain my excitement and happiness. For the first time in a long while, I felt a genuine sense of hope inside me. However, along with that hope, there was one reality that kept me awake at night. Financial hardship. My family made a living through farming. My father had to support not only me, but my two younger siblings as well. We earned only as much as the land would give us. Getting accepted into a prestigious university was a great source of pride for my family. But for me, it also meant an enormous burden. The city I was heading to was the country's largest metropolis, and everything there was expensive: rent, food, transportation, books, all far beyond what our budget could handle. My family told me over and over again, "Don't give up." But quitting this program or failing and returning home was the last thing I ever wanted. When enrollment time came, my father and I sat down and calculated the expenses for an entire year, one by one. When we saw the final number, we both fell silent. It amounted to nearly half of our annual income. My father tried to appear strong, but he couldn't hide the worry on his face. When he said he would sell his land, his tractor, whatever it took, my heart broke. I didn't want to take what rightfully belonged to my siblings. By borrowing money and scraping together what he could from the season's harvest, my father brought me to the city to complete my university registration. There's something important I need to mention here. We knew the school offered dormitory housing, but we didn't realize that applications had to be submitted in advance. When we arrived in the city and learned that all the dorms were completely full, we both felt stranded. That was the day our real test of poverty began. Knowing that I couldn't bear to see my father upset and that I didn't want to go back home, I was forced to tell a lie. I said that my closest friend, Michael, had also been accepted to a university in this city, that his family was financially well off, and that they had rented an apartment. I added that he could host me until my turn for a dorm room came up, and that he would be arriving later that evening. My father trusted me completely. The look of relief on his face weighed heavier on my heart than the lie itself. After the registration process was completed, I told my father that he shouldn't wait any longer and saw him off. After that, I decided I would sleep on a bench. I wanted to use the little money I had to feed myself rather than spend it on a hotel. But more importantly, I urgently needed to find a job. While browsing job listings, something almost miraculous happened. There was an urgent opening for a gardener that also provided accommodation. Since I was experienced with garden work, I saw it as an opportunity meant for me. After spending one night on a bench, I cleaned myself up in the school restroom the next morning and went to the job interview. After asking around, I finally found the house. It wasn't too far from the campus. The garden was quite large, but in the middle of it stood a simple, small, detached house. As I was thinking, could this be the place? The door opened. A tall young man in a suit stepped outside. "Lucas. Are you Lucas?" I felt a surge of excitement. We had spoken on the phone, but I had assumed the person I'd meet would be an assistant, not the homeowner himself. "Yes, hello. I'm Lucas," I said. "Nice to meet you." "I'm Jonathan, the new owner of this place," he said, shaking my hand. When I told him I had expected someone a bit older, he smiled. That gesture eased my nerves. Then he invited me inside. Inside the house, there was a woman and 2 children. One of the children was a girl, the other a boy. The woman was Jonathan's wife, Linda, and the children were Hannah and Caleb. As I began to introduce myself, Jonathan raised his hand, signaling me to stop. "Are you really in need enough to apply for a job like this at your age?" he asked. I told him everything, what I had been through, why I was there, and why I desperately needed this job. A sincere smile appeared on his face. "We'd like to help you," he said, "but we'll be here very rarely. We need someone who won't just take care of the garden, but who will also truly look after the house." I eagerly agreed to everything. When he said they would be leaving the next morning and that I could bring my belongings and move in right away, I nearly cried. He seemed surprised when he realized I hadn't asked about the salary. "Having a place to stay is enough," I said. "Of course not," he replied. "You'll be paid for your work." The salary he mentioned was equal to what my father earned in 3 months. I brought my things and settled into the house. They showed me my room. We had dinner together that evening. I kept thinking to myself how humble these people are. From the very first day, I had grown attached to them. That night, while I was praying, I heard something breaking upstairs, followed by Jonathan shouting in a harsh voice. I assumed the children had broken something and went to sleep. In the morning, I woke up to sharp but quiet sounds. Jonathan and his family were leaving. I helped carry their suitcases to the car. "This house is in your care now," Jonathan said. "Since you're an architect, you'll make it more beautiful over time." The children had pulled their hoods down over their faces. They didn't look cheerful at all. I assumed it was because their father had scolded them. I began working on the garden. No one had taken care of it for a long time. While I was mowing the grass, an elderly couple stood watching me. I greeted them. They walked over and asked, "Who are you?" I explained who I was. The woman looked at me with pity and said, "I hope you never run into them." A sense of unease settled inside me, one I couldn't explain. For a while, everything felt normal. I went to school, helped the workers who came to the house, and kept busy. Until that night. I woke up to the sound of a rusty gate creaking open. A large fire was burning in the garden. I grabbed the fire extinguisher and rushed outside. In the fog-filled yard, I saw 2 tall creatures standing by the flames, their bodies covered in coarse black hair. They had no faces, only glowing eyes. One of them screamed and threw itself into the fire. The other charged straight toward me. As I ran, I tripped, hit my head hard against a stone, and blacked out. When I woke up, I was in my bed. The garden looked completely normal, but something inside me had broken. From the night I stepped into the garden, the sense of peace inside me was gone. Even though everything looked normal when I woke up the next morning. I couldn't convince myself that what I'd experienced had been just a dream. The garden, the grass, the trees, everything was exactly as it should be. There was no trace of fire, no dampness left behind by the fog. My head ached, but there was no swelling or wound that suggested a fall. Still, a voice inside me kept repeating relentlessly, this wasn't just a nightmare. Jonathan and I spoke on the phone frequently. I regularly updated him on the condition of the house and the garden, showing him the work that had been done through photos. Every time, he told me he trusted me and that I was doing an excellent job. He sent my salary on time and on some months. When I tried to return the leftover money from workers and materials, he refused to take it back. He said that since I was a student, I should consider it fair compensation for my effort. Hearing this, I felt both grateful and burdened with an even greater sense of responsibility toward him. However, as the days passed, the house began to feel increasingly restless. Whenever deep renovation work was needed, machines would break down for no apparent reason, and workers would suffer unexplained accidents. One worker fell from the scaffolding. Another quit the job, saying he had cut his finger. Although this house was a great opportunity for me, the unease inside me grew stronger with each passing day. One night, in my sleep, I felt a heavy weight pressing down on my chest. It was as if someone were pushing against my ribcage with all their strength. I couldn't breathe. When I opened my eyes, I saw a figure staring down at me, its face just inches above mine. It had enormous eyes, and its lips were stretched into a grin that reached all the way to its ears. Sharp teeth glimmered in the darkness. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I was paralyzed. It opened its mouth, and its long, pointed tongue began sliding across my face. It was cold and wet. As its claws traced my skin, I felt deep cuts forming beneath them. I wanted to pray, but not a single word came to mind. My brain felt locked, frozen. With all the strength I had left, I could only manage to say one thing silently: God, please help me. Suddenly, everything scattered like a cloud of dust. I jolted upright in bed, screaming. I ran to the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. There wasn't a single mark on my face, yet it burned as if it had been held to fire. I washed my face with cold water, trying to convince myself it had been nothing more than a terrible nightmare. I went back to bed. Growing up in a small town, we had heard many stories like this. Still, I couldn't find peace, and I fell asleep praying. For a long time after that, nothing happened. Summer arrived. Project assignments began at school. Our professor gave us a large group project to complete together. Since the house I was staying in was suitable, I invited my classmates over. I had Jonathan's permission as well. Even so, knowing I was living in someone else's home, an uneasiness lingered inside me. Among my friends was someone named Daniel. Daniel was extremely curious and could never stay still. The moment he entered the house, he began exploring every corner. I kept calling out, "Daniel, come back here," but he wouldn't stop. After a while, he said there was a door beneath the staircase. "There's no such place," I said. "Don't be ridiculous." But when we went to check together, we discovered a door one I somehow hadn't noticed for nearly a year. Daniel asked, "I wonder what's inside." I told him it wasn't our concern and that we needed to focus on our work, then guided him back to the table. After my friends left, the project was finished. I was going to keep the files, make a few final edits, and submit them the next day. But my mind kept drifting back to that door. Curiosity got the better of me. I went back to it and turned the handle. It wasn't locked. Inside was pitch dark. I reached around, searching for an outlet. My hand brushed against an old lamp. With some effort, I managed to turn it on. The room was damp, filled with a heavy, nauseating smell. I covered my face with my t-shirt. In the middle of a space lined with shelves stood a table. On top of it was a box. The moment I opened the box, my knees nearly gave out. Inside were photographs. Photos of rituals performed in the garden, men wearing long black robes, bodies lying on the ground, strange tall figures holding severed human heads in their hands. At first, I thought it had to be some kind of fabrication, but the creatures in the photos were identical to the ones I had seen in my dreams. In one of the photos, two tall hairy creatures were holding severed heads. Standing in front of them were two smaller black figures. When I looked at their feet, I realized they were reversed. At that moment, my phone started ringing. I dropped the lamp in panic. It was Jonathan calling. "Lucas," he said, "we're on our way. We'll be spending the weekend there. We should arrive in 3 or 4 hours. I just wanted to check if anything was missing." I steadied my voice and told him everything was fine, but added that there was something I wanted to talk about when they arrived. He must have sensed my panic, because he asked if I was okay. "I'm fine," I said, but I wasn't fine at all until they arrived. I recited every prayer I knew inside the house. After a while, I saw a car pulling into the garden. It was Jonathan's. I almost felt relieved and went outside. As Jonathan stepped out of the car, he said, "Why does it smell so bad here?" He stopped at the doorway, his face turning serious. "Did something happen in this house?" he asked. The children looked gloomy. Linda's gaze was cold. I told them everything. I mentioned the photographs. A strange smile appeared on their faces. I thought they believed I was crazy. But when I said the feet were reversed, Jonathan rolled up his pant legs like this. He asked Dot his feet were reversed. Without looking back, I ran out of the garden. The only thing I managed to take with me was my phone. I flagged down a passing car and went straight to the police station. I told the officers everything that had happened to me. Because there was a possibility of murder, they came back to the house with me. But the house was now a ruin, covered in cobwebs. The garden was neglected, the building on the verge of collapse. It looked as though no one had lived there for years. That experience shook me to my core. I was forced to drop out of school. Due to financial hardship, I returned to my hometown. But the year I spent there, the things I lived through, and the things I saw have never been able to forget. Thank you for listening to this story. If it affected you, Don't forget to leave a comment and share your thoughts. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. See you in the next one.